Hello, it's Scott Manley here with Shenzhen IO, part 5, I guess. My fellow expats, have you gone to Three Kingdoms Land yet? I just went to the one over in Shenzhen. The recreations of ancient Chinese society were extremely fascinating. Blah blah blah. What he's saying is we want a coin machine, which might be a little out of place in a theme park that's supposed to be about historic recreations, but he has a cunning plan to make these high-tech electronics look the part by giving them a beautiful carved faceplate with dragons and heavenly mountains and all that stuff. It won't look out of place at all unless you open it up and look inside it. Okay, so yeah, we gotta make a coin counting machine here. So we have 3 inputs. One's, which basically is 1, a 5, and a 12 point token. So I'm going to basically splice these through a DX300, right? That'll give me a bit mask for an input. That will be a single input line that I need to interrogate. We have a little price setting here, which will, I guess that's what we have to decrement. And when that reaches below 0, we're supposed to ring the bell and then generate change. So we get a whole bunch of pings, and thankfully none of them line up simultaneously, so I should only need to worry about one input at a time. We don't need, if somebody inserts 2 coins simultaneously, that could be a problem, but I am not going to work to deal with that particular case. So there, connect to X0 and X1. We should probably connect the bell to the analog output, and then we will have a subcontroller which will handle all the change. And I'm just going to go with the big controller because if I can fit the code into the smaller one, that's fine, I can cut and paste it, but right now I'm just going to go with the bigger one because it's better to do it with the big one and then find out you wouldn't have needed the extra space than to find out you need the extra space. So we're going to move the value from the price setting into the accumulator because we're going to do this every time. Every time we reset, we're going to move the price into the accumulator and then decrement. Then there's the main coin checking loop. So each case will move the value of X1 into the DAT register. So now we just need to figure out what coin was inserted, and the way we do that is using this kind of bit mask. It'll either be 1, 10 or 100. So if it's equal to 100, then we know that the value is going to be 12. Oh yeah, the value should be 12. Sometimes it could be backwards. However, if it's not, if it's equal to 10, then we'll subtract 5, and then similarly, if it's equal to 1, then we shall only subtract 1. And so that then once we've done that, we need to check, is our accumulator less than or greater than 0, right? So if the accumulator is greater than 0, we shall jump back to LP. But if it isn't, then we need to move, we're done, right? So what we're going to do now is tell the change processor, right, which is attached to X2, we're going to send the accumulator through there, and then we will generate a pulse on P1. We need to move the accumulator through first because we start generating change right away. So this means that the bell pulse can happen asynchronously with the change generation. See how smart that is? It's beautiful. And then once that's done, we just jump back to the start. So let's just check. Oh, the part's not sleeping. We need a sleep in here somewhere. Where should we have a sleep? Probably at the start of this loop, or maybe at the end. If we have it, wait a second, I'm just trying to think. If we have it too early, if we have it before we send the date, so what I don't want to do is if I have it in the wrong place, I could mess up my subsequent pulses. Step. Okay, then that goes to 0. I don't know, let's just figure out the rest of the stuff first. If the stuff is desynchronized, then we'll replace the sleep. But look, we fitted all our instructions in. So, now what we want to do is we want to move X1 into the accumulator. Although, now I think about it, of course, we're going to be reading, X1 will block if we read from it, so we should actually make sure that we sleep with SLX. We're going to sleep until there is a value on X1. And then as soon as there's a value on X1, we move it into the accumulator. And now we have the main loop, so the decrement loop, or sorry, So we're going to get a negative value in here, and what we're going to do is actually add in the change as we do this. So if the accumulator is 0, then we jump to the start because we're done. Otherwise, we have to step through this loop and dispense change. So if the accumulator is less than -4, we should generate a signal on P1. We're going to add 5 and generate a ping on P1. Otherwise, and so here's the other side of this, is we'll do the negative version, add 1 and generate a signal on P0 to dispense a 1 unit coin. Thank God I don't need to generate 12 unit coins. And finally, we will jump back to the start of this change giving loop, and I think that's us. The only thing I'm worried about is the exact timing. Okay, see, so remember what I said about the sleeps? Because we have the sleep in the wrong place, it means that we're generating the change pulses slightly out of sequence. Technically, we're doing the right thing, and a human may not notice a difference, but our test criteria are very specific. So where, in God's name, do I put the sleep? You can't sleep before we send out that message, and we can't sleep before we generate that signal. And equally, we also have to worry about this whole jump instruction as well. So, yeah, this is gonna... Oh man. Is it gonna work out just fine if I sleep at the start of the loop? I'm wondering if that will break anything. You see, I gotta say, it would be very nice if we could actually scroll to the right and see the future test runs, because then, although to be fair, if it breaks in the first one, maybe it might break in the second one, I don't know, it'd be nice for me to scroll over, just so I can see whether there's any cases where they drop a coin in right away and just deliberately to try and mess over some solutions. Never mind, look, I'm gonna put the sleep right at the very start. Right at the very start. Well, not right at the very start. Right at the start of this loop here. So instead of immediately moving, we're going to have the marker LP. And then we're going to stick sleep on... We're just going to sleep 1. We're not even going to sleep on X here. Okay, this should work. Ping, 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 ping. Yes, I'm getting my money back. I'm putting my money in. I am hearing jingle, jingle bells, and therefore money is happening. Commerce in the 3 kingdoms is being promoted and supported by digital technology. And yeah, I think I did pretty well there. And there may be some way to improve on this, but I shall accept this for now and perhaps optimize later. It's a small start, but something global. David, you're annoying. Thank you so much for your ancient wisdom, David. Well, thank you. Thank you for telling us all your Chinese skills. We're contacting you about an incredible once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to own land rich in rare earth metals in the western region of China. What are rare earths? Rare earth metals power the world's electronics, phones, engines, motors. It's fair to say the world, blah, 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 blah. Aquaponics. Surely many of you have heard of Sun Haoshin. His father was one of the first electronic entrepreneurs from this area, starting from when it was first designated a special economic zone. Now that he's inherited the family business, it would be no exaggeration to say he's the most powerful man in Shenzhen today. So yes, she has some plan for an aquaponic system, which grows food that combines aquaculture and hydroponics. Fantastic! Well, let's see what we can do here. So, Radio RX is a non-blocking bus, motor is an output device, tool clean and tool feed are outputs that we need to do. The maintenance robot begins at station 0, and by pushing pulses to the motor I can move it. The packet comes in, has destination station, tool clean and tool feed numbers. Okay, so let's try and figure this out. We should probably have... We're going to need at least 2 controllers here, possibly more. First thing I want to do is move the value of X0 into my accumulator and test if it's equal to 999, minus 999, because this is a non-blocking bus. If it is minus 999, Then all we want to do is sleep for a moment and come back later when there's actual real data to do rather than you false data, continually annoying me by sending fake data. Okay, now the hard part. We have 3 digits. And the first one is going to be the motor position, or sorry, the arm position. So I'm going to have a subcontroller that handles that. We'll just send the new desired motor position across the X bus, and then it'll keep track of where it currently is and move it back and forth and whatnot. So I don't need to fit in the code that moves the arm here, but after the arm moves, I need to clean the tool or use the cleaning tool and then use the feed. So let's just check. Yeah, we have 222. That means that we move it to position 2 and then clean for 2 and feed for 2. So we're going to generate a pulse on P1, I guess. P1 is going to be hooked up to the tool clean, and P0 can be hooked to tool feed. So we'll, wait a second, we'll generate on P1 a pulse for the duration of whatever is on X0, because X0 is the thing that is we're going to read from. Similarly, gen P0, X0, and 0. So that's the cleaning cycle, and then all we need to do is wait for a response back on the X1 bus. So the X1 will get a notification from the motor controller saying, hey, I've reached the location. So we're going to sleep on X. And yeah, we actually need to clear out the X as well. So we need to move the X value somewhere. And where do I move it right now? I guess I can just compare the X. One way to clear out the X input is just to compare it. I'm not going to do anything with the result, so TCP works just fine. Okay, motor controller. Motor controller, your job, should you choose to accept it, is to move the robot arm back and forth. Sleep until you get your data and then move that into the DAT, because I think what we're going to do is keep track of the arm position in the accumulator. Now, if the accumulator and the DAT position are the same, then we are done. So we're just going to jump down to done. And the little done section of code is super easy. All we need to do here is tell our parent that we're done doing things. So we move the value of 1 into X1. I think it doesn't matter because we're just throwing the value away. Now, every time we loop, we need to make sure whether we're going to go to the left or right. So if DAT is greater than the accumulator, then we need to move the value of 100 into P1. And while the motor is moving, we need to actually update our state. So we add 1 to the accumulator. Now the opposite condition will do the reverse, right? We'll move 0 into P1 to tell the motor to move to the left, and then we'll subtract 1. Brilliant! And after doing this, I believe we need to reset the status on this. We need to sleep for a moment and then move 50 back into position 1 and sleep again for a pulse. And then jump back to the start of the loop. And that's us. Let's see it. Bingo, bingo, bingo. Excellent. Oh, wait a second. We need to somehow set the value to 50 early on. And I'm out of instructions. Oh yay! I'm gonna have to really think about how to code this thing. So. We need this reset here. How can I save some instructions? This could be really problematic. So, I need the add and the subtract, and we definitely need the move, but I could convert this one to a gen. Right, I can make this a pulse generator. So generate a pulse of 1 second and 0. And that mostly works, right? But move to the left isn't going to work because we can't sleep. But, so the gen pulse, what it says is the first duration is the high and the second duration is the low. So if I do 0, 1, I should be able to do this whether asleep, and that means I can initialize this to 50, move 50 into P1, and let's see this work. Work. Yes! Yes. Look at this robot go, tending its plants silently running from one place to another. Should I call it Huey, Dewey, or Louie? I don't know. It's a success, nevertheless. Definitely room for improvement, but I'm quite happy with that. Okay, I've received word that Mr. Sun was happy with the results of our work here. Clearly, it's part of a much larger project, but nobody I speak to will say anything more. Yo, dogs, I was out drinking last night and realized, you know what Americans love? Sandwiches. Am I right? Americans can't get enough sandwiches. I sketched out a quick design for a Patriotic sandwich machine where you put in the white bread, bologna, and mustard. It could play a song when it finishes. More details to come later when I'm less hungover. Wow, this is going to be amazing. Okay, so apparently I messed things up. Somehow I lost the video or perhaps deleted the video, and so I'm actually going back over my old saves and realizing that I didn't have the solution for this. So I'm just going to show you what I did. You can skip out on the working, but this is how it works. So we have three different components here. We have a head controller or a first controller, which is an MC6000 that handles the input. It also handles putting on the bread and the flag. And then when this has processed the input, it passes it through to a secondary controller which handles the contents of the sandwich. The meat, the cheese, and the mustard. Now, it only has two analog outputs, so to create a third analog output, we use the X3 here, and we put it through one of these DX300s. So yeah, it's easy enough. We just wait for input on the X, and when we get an input, we say, is it -1? If it's -1, we just reset the value in the accumulator and return to the start. If it's equal to 3, then that enters sandwich production mode. We fall through and we start generating the pulses for the bread. We tell this thing what to do, and then when this thing has finished what it's doing, it returns, and we wait on that, and we'll generate the bread pulse and the flag pulse and then reset. But if it's equal to either 1 or 2, which is hold the cheese or extra mustard, then we add the relevant value to the accumulator. Now, I checked, and in no place do we find the cheese or the mustard button being pushed more than once. So this isn't a problem that we're adding these. Otherwise, it would be great to have an OR instruction, but we don't need to worry about that. So yeah, that puts either the value 0, 1, 2, or 3 in here, and after we've put on the bread, we fire that value over to this unit. And this unit sticks the value in here. Now it wants to find out, there's 2 bits in this, so it has to split the bits apart. And the way it does this is that it moves the value into the DAT, right? So it has a copy in here, and then it says, is this greater than 2? If so, subtract 2, and now you have this bit which can be tested to see whether we should hold the cheese or not, and this section where if it's greater than or equal to 2, then we need to do extra mustard. So yeah, we check here. If we don't have the hold the cheese set, then we send cheese pulse. If we don't have if we have the extra mustard set, then we need to generate an extra long mustard pulse. And then that's us. That's the whole thing. We follow through, and let's watch the thing in action. Real-time cheese sandwich making, generating. Look at this. Bread, meat, cheese, mustard, bread, flag. And the same thing again. It keeps going. Bread, 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 cheese. Da 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 da. Can't you feel the patriotism flowing through you? Yes, this is truly bleeding edge technological patriotism in action via sandwich makers. Yeah. So yeah, it did actually end up working, and of course, well, we get this interesting response afterwards from Joe. I'm sorry, I'm really trying my best to come up with good ideas, but obviously, as you've pointed out, I have more work to do in that area. Please give me another chance. I swear I'm going to redouble my efforts and work extra hard to create a successful product for you. I promise. Oh, please disregard the previous message. I hit the wrong button. Oh, yes, Joe. And then, of course, we get a message from Lily Woo. Over the last 2 weeks, we've conducted a thorough review of the company's product lines. We are showing some signs of improvement over last year, but we are still creating multiple products with no point, like sandwich makers, no goal, and no larger plan. I want everyone to think how to focus products that have potential to truly change the world. Where are the devices that we feel proud of as a company? How can we earn respect? What future are we building towards? We must face these questions head on, and with all our efforts, and in order to have a chance of becoming one of the world's top electronic firms. My uncle named the company Long Tang, Rising Dragon, for a reason. Yes, indeed, the Rising Dragon. And you know what? If I was to meet a Rising Dragon, I would tell it, I'm Scott Manley. Fly safe.